Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned this, but 63. That's where we're at. That's what we're doing.
63. There you go.
Just me and Norundithus today.
Oh, you can go ahead and say Chad, but sure. Norundithus, in case you want to try that again.
Is here with your boy Sai.
Sure.
One of the rare ones where we're actually doing a little earlier than we usually do. But yeah, just the two of us. So 2 articles, a couple things that
2 articles, 2 bros.
Yeah, a couple things that actually both of them caught my attention, but one of them also caught yours. So first one, read this thing. It was actually today that I read it. This blew up over the weekend apparently, and I did not know. But this morning I'm reading that in North Carolina's 9th, which was decided by 905 votes apparently, which is also probably why there's a whole bunch of field of fire on this. Apparently there is a whole bunch of shenanigans, it looks like, that were pulled. They don't, to be fair, when I read this, I don't really, it's an NPR article. I don't really, which I always feel like NPR just tells you what happened. Not very much opinion. So as I read through this, trying to like understand what happened, I'm a little confused still as to like who is necessarily at fault. But basically in a couple counties in the North Carolina 9th congressional district, there were a lot of absentee ballots that were failed to be mailed back in, and you have to request absentee ballots. So the idea is if you request it, you probably wanted it and you'll mail it back, right? So like a high number of them not coming back is weird. And there are multiple anecdotal first-person experiences of people saying that people came to their door claiming to be like election officials, demanding that they turn in their absentee ballot or mail-in ballot. Even apparently, according to this article, or maybe not to this one, but another one, but no, this one. Even if it wasn't done yet, like I guess someone was interviewed that said they only voted for 2 of the races, and then someone showed up at their door and like demanded they turn in their. Which, by the way, you can't do that. Like you have to mail it in.
Third person.
So that's right. So someone doing that already is shady as all the fucks that you can have.
It is really odd.
And so it seems like the same kind of shadiness, by the way, happened in the same counties with the same kind of ballots in the Republican primary as well. And Mark Harris, who is a Republican who won the day of November 6th, the election day, he actually primaried an incumbent Republican in the primary, which that information makes it everything a little bit more like, you know what I'm saying?
How's that?
Because the same guy that used these shady tactics in the general election was able to primary an incumbent, apparently using somewhat, it looks like, similar tactics. And I just feel like that's another thing that it's just like, you know what I'm saying? Like, of course it doesn't make anybody guilty, but it's like, oh, okay. So like this guy primaried an incumbent, which is extremely difficult to do no matter what. Like most incumbents win re-election, period, end of story, just how the system works. And so I'm not saying that this is something that, it's just more like, that's a coincidence. Okay, interesting, To further add to your North Carolina does a great job, apparently, of when they certify election results, they use 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans, and 1 independent, apparently voters from that district. They review the results. I don't know if they investigate or anything, but I guess they just review the results and they certify them. And they're just regular people. And it's a balanced panel. And the whole panel in the 9th district voted unanimously to not certify the results.
Was it unanimous? I thought it was 7-2.
It was. Oh, it might have been 7-2.
Yeah.
Well, still, in this day and age, still okay. Like,
Well, yeah, 2 of those votes
if
were
it was 5-4,
Republican,
then we could
so.
stand here and say, "Oh, Democrat, Independent against Republicans." Okay, well, but no, 7-2. Like, all right,
Yeah.
well, something is going on here.
Yeah, 2 of the votes that withholded were Republican, but the other 5 votes, 2 of them were also Republican. So,
Right.
yeah. So there's obviously some reason to be suspect here, especially since what they say 40, what is that? 40%, more than 40%
Right.
of the absentee ballots did not come back.
That on top of one of the first person instance of someone saying that they did not finish the ballot and turn it into someone at their door, coupled with one of the districts, if I remember correctly, like 65 to 70% of the vote total in the absentee mail-in ballots went for the Republican. And to achieve those numbers, he would have had to win every single Republican, every single independent, and a significant number of Democrats to achieve that number. And compared to the other counties in the district, it's just off. 538 did a really, I'll post a 538 link too in the description below the video. They did a really good breakdown. And I actually didn't see it until like an hour before we got on. What the heck is happening in that North Carolina race? They did a really great breakdown. And this is why I love data, because data, as long as it's not tampered with, data will just, it's what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like that is as objective as you can get. And
well, especially when
every single other county just went very Democratic in the same kind of votes.
Right.
And also, it's not just that. You could say, oh, well, there could be one outlier county. Like, okay, fair enough. But on top of that, the number of Democratic registered people who mail in their ballots are much higher. And in every county, it's that number. And the numbers look the way they do there. But in this one county, it's the same number of registered Democrats and Republican breakdown, but all of a sudden the numbers are hugely flipped in the other direction. It's like, okay.
Well, there's a quote in here. Gary Cohen, who is apparently an elections expert in North Carolina, said the return rate is usually about 80 to 90%. Because again, these are absentee ballots. These are people requesting these ballots. They typically
come back at a high rate. 80 to 90 sounds right.
And we're talking about 40% not coming back, 64% in one county not coming back, which is just, that's statistically an anomaly. So there's something weird going on here. And something else that sort of shot out at me. So the Democratic candidate, McCready, I don't know their first name.
Dan McCready
was fine. He was like, okay, that's fine. Let's review the election. And obviously he lost the election, so he's fine with reviewing it. But the other, the Republican candidate, Harris, again,
Mark Harris.
There we go.
Local Baptist pastor, I believe. Christian pastor of some sort.
Opposed the decision. He said the State Board of Elections should act immediately to certify the race while continuing to conduct their investigation. So he's saying he should be put into power and then conduct their investigation. It's like, what? What do you mean?
Yeah,
why would you, if there's an investigation going on?
I'm actually surprised. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm actually surprised he didn't just say there should be no investigation and certify the results.
No, because then that's immediately suspect.
Dude, in this day and age,
investigation.
Put me in off. Yeah. And me and you, and it sounds like you're just like me. Me and you are careful to say, hey, it really smells like there's a lot of bullshit here, but I'm not saying there's bullshit. Let's just see what the investigation reveals. Mostly this catches my eye because we live in this day and age of a lot of people who ring the voter fraud bell. And I know it feels like every week in this administration is another goddamn year. But doth you remember when in the beginning of this administration, they were ringing voter fraud bells? And it was totally because Trump lost the popular vote. That's the only reason why it was happening. So Trump loses the popular vote.
Millions
really
of illegals.
Super butthurt. This is what happens. Trump loses the popular vote. Super butthurt because he lost the popular vote. Even though he won. Couldn't get over the fact that he lost the popular vote. Was so incensed by this that he fucking had to go out with this voter fraud commission that they actually spent money, taxpayer money, to find invented voter fraud by Trump. So it's just been years of, and it's been before Trump too.
So if you count the millions of illegals that voted in California, Trump won by a country mile.
So let me just say this, and I want you to comment on this after I say it.
Sure.
Oh, Jesus, I hear what you said. But let me just say this and comment on it after I'm done. What if I told you that if we didn't enforce voter ID laws, out of 100,000 people, 20 people would commit voter fraud? Because it was slightly easier because we didn't have voter ID laws, and 20 out of 100,000 commit voter fraud. What if at the same time,
right,
I told you that if we implemented voter ID laws,
I see,
instead of 100,000 people voting, a lot of poor and disadvantaged people who it's tough even for them to vote because of work, because of who the fuck knows, they don't even have a vehicle, whatever. They get their polling shut down because of some scumbag politician. Okay? The 100,000 people that would have voted in our country who are citizens and deserve to vote, all of a sudden are 60,000. So because of 20 people you were upset who are scumbag weirdos, who, by the way, come from the left, right, center, all over the place. Fringe people can come from anywhere. We're going to limit the voting rights of thousands of people. You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't make sense. And it just makes me upset. There's a lot of things that in this day and age we talk about, and it comes down to a few people. Their argument is because of waste and abuse to a level that is 0.001%, take away the benefit to the whole populace because 3 people ruined it for everyone else. It's like, fuck you. No. If we want to take steps towards having a better society, then we need to recognize that there's going to be hiccups along the way and it's not going to be perfect. We need to ask ourselves, I'm not saying that we should excuse waste and fraud. We should always be fighting against it. We should have task forces against it. That's fine. I'm just saying, what at the end of the day, if the idea is if there's even one iota of waste or fraud, we can't do better. I'm not signing up for that. So that's what we get caught up in. Go ahead.
Can I flip that hypothetical?
Go ahead.
Let's say we do have voter ID laws. And let's say that people are asking for those voter ID laws to be removed. Now, we all know that you have to go register to be a voter. Like, there's obviously hoops you have to jump through. But this is a hypothetical, obviously. Mm-hmm. Let's say Democrats are really fighting hard to have that voter ID law removed. But Republicans know that typically the voter who doesn't have a voter ID leans left. So they fight that. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Like,
I do. Look, there's always a practical side. There's always a heartening side and a practical side to everything, I feel like. And you're highlighting the practical side. And
it's just sad because it's not about bringing people to the booth. It's about what position supports me the most.
Right. You know what the easy
both sides are doing.
You know what the easy, and I even recognize almost the cop-out response is. It's you should commit to doing better for everybody. Right. You know, there's got to be a line where things aren't partisan. Right. And you shouldn't be partisan about voting access. Everybody should be a part of the society they're in. But look, we've built a society that plays politics, and so we can't just sit here and come up with the cop-out answer. I don't know, man. I think that.
No, I hear you.
I think that means that we all have to do our part. I don't even know what that means, our part, but we all have to do our part to just reform things to alleviate that. You know, like I don't even know how else to say that.
The problem is there's so much money in politics, and they run all these stats and they run all of these polls, and they know exactly what they're dealing with in terms of who's leaning what way in terms of behavior.
Look,
so nothing can ever be nonpartisan in that sense, which sucks.
Run that. Yeah. Run that though. I think there is a line that, and if we didn't have this line, then we wouldn't have the modern society that we've built on the shoulders of others. There's a line where it's too far. And I think that, fine, there are times where politics can be played and it is what it is. But I think that a line crossed too far is restricting the rights of naturalized, legitimate Americans from voting. Or not even Americans, just anybody in a society who is no question a part of that society. And I'm not talking about gray area people. I'm talking about this person was born here, has been here, and you try to take that vote away, you know, that's too far. That's too
Right.
far. I don't give a shit if there's a degree of playing politics that I get, you know, when we debate over taxes or healthcare, but this is just too far, man. Everybody gets to have a say in their society. That's it. And that's what I would say about that. And I think you would actually win that public debate too. You could just put that out in the public debate and you'll win that. You're going to get a lot of
Well,
dude,
yeah.
in this day and age, all you have to do to win public opinion is make sure that you have a bunch of the white people on your side. If you get like half the white people, you get half the white people saying like, yeah, everybody should be able to vote. All the colored people and all the disadvantaged people are going to say the same shit, and you have a majority. Okay, so
oh, I see what you're saying in terms of majority voting blocks.
Right.
Yeah.
And I hate even dragging race into it.
Yeah.
As long as you can get a significant portion of middle class earners on your side, you're going to have the poor people on your side, and you're going to be fine.
Right.
That's what I should say, and that's more what it is. So
yeah,
there's just a line that you can cross that's too far, and if they're a legitimate American, and it's just because of too many times too, people are like, why just get an ID, like, come on, yo, you can't know it's that simple for everybody. You can't know. And if you want it to be that simple for everybody, then spend money to make sure it is that simple for everybody. Make sure, like, have people knock on people's doors handing out IDs. If you're gonna act like it should be so simple, then fucking make it simple. Don't act like it's simple and then at the same time, like, oh, but you have to blah, 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 and do this. And, oh, you know, if you're a felon, it's harder or this or that. It's like, come on, yo. If you act like it's simple, make sure it's simple to get an ID. Make sure every single American has an ID.
Yeah.
If every single American can't just acquire an ID by someone literally knocking on their door or making it that simple, then don't act like it's that simple. So...
just to bring it back to this article, just one more thing I wanted to point out, because I read this and I was dumbfounded. And this is in reference to Harris, the Republican winner of this race in the 9th District in North Carolina. He said he supported efforts to investigate allegations of voter fraud as long as it is fair and focuses on all political parties. He added, Harris said there were not enough ballots in question to affect the outcome of the race, which blew my mind because just a few paragraphs earlier, the two candidates were separated by 905 votes out of more than 280,000. That's why I was absolutely at a lot. Like, what do you mean? Anybody impartial looking at those numbers knows that if there's any fraud at all, that could have huge implications on the race.
This is another reason, another big inspiration behind me wanting to
really bothered me, man.
This is another big inspiration behind me wanting to start like another fresh, new, like, or even getting behind, not even starting, but getting behind like a new, different political party.
Right.
Like, you ever sit here and think like, do they just say this shit because like they don't give a damn about what actually makes sense. They just say things in support of themselves and their interests. Like, that's what it seems like a lot of the times.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, are you fucking kidding me? Even one of the dumbest people could just figure out, like, okay, you're just saying this because this is good for you. You're not actually saying, like, come on, dude, it was 900 votes. I'm not expecting anybody to say I committed fraud, but come on.
No, of course not.
But separated by 900 votes, you're still going to sit there and be like, there's not enough votes.
It's because he won. You know what's crazy too is if you flip,
but that's what I'm saying.
If you flip those results, let's say the Democrat comes out on top.
Be damned that much. Go ahead.
Let's say the Democrat comes out on top. I would probably guess that both these guys would be saying swapped what they're saying right now. Maybe not so much in terms of the Democrat, because
I agree.
I tend to give them a bit more credence these days, just out of what we've seen in recent history. But it probably would be that way. The Democrat would be complaining that the voting process is being held up, and the Republican would be on the side of, oh, let's review this. Let's look at what really happened. It's like, come on, just be fucking intellectually honest for 1 second.
For 1 second.
As a politician, please. I mean, these politicians, they're self-preservationists, right? And unfortunately, the system is set up so that the power isn't entirely in the hands of the people. There are systems, there are influences that they are beholden to.
This is the exact kind of nuanced comments that really scare me. Not the stupid mainstream stuff. Like it's when even the most obvious thing isn't said by a politician, whether it comes from D's or R's. You're not wrong. I always sit there and I'm just like, oh my God, like, are they so bought? Are they so like influenced by big interests, money, whatever the fuck that they just like, or are they just so tribal or so because it doesn't have to be corporate money. It could be just like loyalty to the Democratic Party or like just be true to yourself. Like you can
or even pride.
I know there's a lot of especially this year, there's a lot of candidates that never said they were Republican or Democrat in their ads at all. They would just be like, I'm Kirsten Sinema, ba 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 ba, but never said she was a fucking Democrat, not one time, you know?
That's interesting.
And that happened a lot. And it's because like actual people are they don't like that. They don't like that. They'd rather have people that are true to themselves. I don't actually think that people necessarily care whether you're a part of a party or not. What makes them mad is that if history proves anything, it's time and time again, even people who claim they're outsiders, when they enter the party system, whether it's left or right, something happens where eventually they're just fucked. They're just fucked. And it's no surprise why Bernie Sanders is like a popular politician and others like him, whether they're left or right, because like actual people who have been saying the same things all the time, who never got fucked, who just sit there and do the same things. And it's just
you could say that about Barack Obama though, and he got in, and we saw his policies change,
and then he got dicked. Yeah,
I mean, like he still did some good things, but you saw him get really washed by the system of power that's already there. You can come in as a populist and you see what the reality is and you just do what you can, or you just kind of give in to the
that's what I'm saying,
demands of the party in power.
Now look, I still have respect for Obama.
But
and I have respect for George W. and Bill Clinton and HW, honestly.
But you see that when these guys get in, you see that their policies get watered down. They're a bit more beholden to their party rather than their people. They kind of lose that populist edge. It's kind of disappointing.
You have to play politics.
You do, but it sucks that politics has to be that.
It is a rare thing to have someone, regardless of what ideology they come from or what party they come from, it's a rare thing to see someone play politics well and be honest and true to themselves. It's such a rare thing. It's such a rare thing.
Yeah.
For a lot of reasons, but
so to summarize this article, politicians are disappointing. Nice.
They are. And look, let's say you became a politician yourself. You're going to disappoint some people. You are. But there's not everybody is of your mindset of your, level-headedness or I don't know, whatever the fuck. But there is definitely a line where it's like between someone who is a good politician that knows they can't please everybody, but they try to do what's right for everybody, and someone who just like blatantly makes stupid and false statements like there's not enough votes. 900 votes, man.
Not enough votes in question.
900 votes. Come on.
That's crazy.
You're straight up lying about what happened. You're straight up playing just partisan, tribal, you know what I'm saying? Like be honest there. That shows me who you are. If you're not, or if you are, and he wins.
I mean, if it's that close, how can you make a statement like that? Just even if there's only 500 votes in question, like the fact that you could do small threshold, just take a look then. Do an investigation.
Free political advice from political strategist Cyril Dunham. You know what you could do? You could just shut the fuck up. No, you could just say nothing. You could just sit on your hands.
No, you gotta have a statement.
Play out.
You gotta have a statement.
Okay, fine. You could have a shut the fuck up statement where you're just like, let it play out. We will see what happens. We will see what happens. Let it play out. That's what I'm saying. Just shut the fuck up.
I don't understand the need.
Just let it play out.
Politicians to put their foot in their mouth, and obviously we have a commander in chief that does it constantly. I don't understand.
Rural North Carolina. Well, maybe that should some line.
Wow, that's a bit aggressive.
I'm kidding. Love rural North Carolina. Good people.
It's just crazy to me. But we can move on to the next.
Go ahead. This is your article. We'll let Norundithus introduce us to
I actually didn't know what you were referring to when you pronounced that badly. Sure. Norundithus will chime in here then.
Oh, sure.
So this one's from the Daily Beast, and I believe you posted this initially, but this is something that was John Oliver talked about a while ago, and these are just like the implications of what the Sinclair media conglomerate it would expect to be doing, considering the power that they have. But so the article headline is Sinclair forces local TV stations to air segment defending tear gassing migrants. Now, the tear gassing migrants thing is a separate issue, I think, entirely from just what Sinclair is doing as a media conglomerate. Because you can feel how you want to feel about the use of tear gas at the border. But there is obviously much bigger problems here that Sinclair owns all of these local news stations and is inserting their own commentary to these people coming from a position of moral high ground, of presuming the question, or sorry, begging the question, of sort of stating opinions as fact. There's problems with that, especially when it's coming from a huge corporation, a corporate media group. So essentially, what was it? If you tuned into one of the approximately 200 local news stations owned and operated by Sinclair Broadcast Group this week, you may have seen the company's chief political analyst, Boris Epshteyn, the short-lived Trump administration official, which I actually missed that earlier when I read it, deliver this aggressive defense of the Border Patrol's decision to shoot tear gas at a group of asylum seekers that included women and children. Sure. The must-run segment, which airs in the middle of otherwise ostensibly objective local news broadcasts. We all know how boring local news is and how just objective they are just because there isn't that much interest in it to begin with. But they're inserting these segments. So it's Epshteyn, Boris Epshteyn. I don't even know what this guy, what role he played in the Trump administration. But he has this like, how long is it? 3-4 minute segment? Oh, he was on the transition team. That's fair. Like that. But it's like, who is this guy? And what is this media group that's injecting all of this opinion into local media? Like, local media is one of the last bastions of trusted news in America. And Sinclair's just going straight for the jugular.
Right.
They don't care. They want to push their agenda.
There's different areas of where to get your news, right? Based on like what you want to consume. And local news has typically been just that, right? Things that happened in your area. If you live in Portland, Maine, okay, and you're watching the news and all of a sudden Boris Epshteyn comes on and he starts talking about what quote unquote happened at the border, I'm just going to guess 2,000 miles away. Okay. Tells you what happened, tells you what is right and wrong, tells you what should be done, what is happening, and if it's right or wrong. Like, these things are just like,
it's a pulpit. You're paying for a pulpit.
You don't go to your local newscast to hear about news that aren't local. Right. And there was an inherent, and as always happens in like, I feel like a like rich market of stuff. You originally started with a whole bunch of I don't even want to, no, that's not a good word for it, but like you originally started with a whole bunch of innovative, like grassroots journalists way back in the day when local news started up, you know, going to a station and doing work for the local, you know, and things weren't as national, things weren't as connected. So local news was like the heartbeat then, right? And so that was like a trusted place for what would happen there. But I don't know, as things got more national and as things like just everything, even these days, people vote their local elections more and more along party lines than not, just because everything is more and more connected and we just hear national news all the time. You acquire enough local news stations, now it's just your plaything to input your viewpoint or whatever the hell you want to get jammed down people's throats. And of course, everybody knows that they're targeting an older crowd because that older crowd grew up with the trusted local news and trusting it and it being like, oh, the go-to source for like real news and like, oh, this is just what's happening and it's objective. Now these same people are older, still watching the news, and they're just like jamming this stuff down their throats.
That's an interesting point.
You know what I'm saying? These people already tend to slant the way that they're trying to lean.
Well, especially because millennials, when you talk about millennials, we've been growing up for the most part with this hyper-partisan news type. And we're more technologically proficient. We're more culturally aware just by virtue of being millennials, right? So we're aware to tread the minefield that is current media, whereas older folks who can't figure out how to program the remote or fix the Wi-Fi when it goes out, like they're and that's not a slant against those types of people. It's just a different landscape, and they're obviously not. Well, not all of them, obviously, but a good portion of them are not equipped to be able to parse through that. And especially with local news. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's
millennials,
very discouraging.
It's not that we've grown up with all this stuff. It's that, I mean, every generation is not going to give a shit about politics until a certain point. It's that we've come of age in politics with this stuff. So like, I don't know this. There's sometimes I think that like, I'm probably not because I'm so passionate and into stuff like this, but there's sometimes I think that like, was I pulled into politics because we've gotten this way and because it dominates? Like it's the number one, like politics is so much a part of popular culture now. It's crazy, dude.
It is.
Like,
whereas that was never really the case.
I've been and have been and crushing, like CNN's done these like documentaries on each decade from like the 50s on. I've seen them all.
Mm-hmm.
I love pop culture history. I love history in general, but pop culture history I'm especially fascinated by. And politics just was not a part of pop culture that often. Mm-hmm. There was times where we were in such dire straits like FDR that like it rose above everything else. Even JFK to a certain extent, but man, dude, this it's crazy, man. In this day and age, like politics is like mainstream. I don't want to say it's mainstream discussion people are having because I don't, but sure certainly seems like a lot of people are like having mainstream politics talks these days
all the time,
which all didn't used to be that way.
So you know the political leanings of our mother. And I know roughly how Facebook's algorithms work. And just for fun to see the news feed, or sorry, not the news feed, the feed, I think it's called on Facebook. Just out of curiosity to see the feed that mom is getting when she's on Facebook, like minimum 2 hours a day, I will scroll through. I'll just pick up her iPad, I'll open up her Facebook, and I'll just scroll through the feed that she gets. And boy, oh boy, it is at least a fifth of the content on there. And it's always hyper partisan. It's always slanted towards a very specific angle. I mean, and it's because this is, again, this is Facebook's algorithm. This is what people click on. This is what they're looking at. It is such a part of our everyday conversation now.
We live in this world. We live in this world where there's so many people, even in this country, we live in this country where there's so many people that things happen all the time that can support your narrative. And if you're just force-fed only the things that support your narrative, it's so like gross. It's just, oh my goodness, what are we doing? Like,
it's crazy too, because when you talk to somebody who's
crazy, man,
only ever really exposed to that narrative or exists within that narrative, if you ever have a conversation with somebody that's like clearly in that bubble, you can tell very quickly. Because they start to make a lot of claims of which they cannot substantially.
That's why you always just gotta don't ever
right and left.
Well, I don't want to say don't ever, but I always stick to, I don't tell people they're wrong or this or that. I just ask them to tell me why they think they do.
Right.
And there's a lot of times where people will make claims, especially when I'm at work. And I say like, so why do you think that way? And they'll just be like, well, that's just, especially when
That's
it comes
just
to
the way
like,
things are.
especially once it comes to like myths around welfare and shit. It's just like people at work will just be like, oh, there's just so many people that just like are on welfare. It's just like, almost, if not a majority of people. I'm like, excuse me? No. There's not an almost majority, even an almost majority of people on welfare. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, come on, most people work, and people that don't work, most of them are supported by people that work. And then there's a few of us that fucking whatever.
There's very few people on welfare that don't work. A lot of people on welfare work.
What?
Right? Like, that's just...
We live in New York State.
Yeah.
Can you just be on straight welfare? Can that happen? Now, you can get a lot of support for a lot of things, like if you have children, this or that, blah, 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 food stamps. I don't think they call it food stamps anymore. It's
SNAP.
Something else. SNAP, there it is. Okay, that's fine. But can anybody just like not work? You can't.
Very few. Very, very few. And the type of lifestyle that you could sustain on
is garbage.
It's
straight garbage.
Not great.
First of all.
Especially
of course it's not great.
Especially if you have kids.
To act like these people are freeloading, like wealthy, like that's crazy. Like there are some freeloading wealthy people that scam the system, but that's not welfare. All right. These people need to be thrown in jail. They actually like cheat the system. All right. And then, that's the kind of stuff I'm like, oh my God. Yeah,
it's frustrating, man. It is frustrating.
This comes back to the number one. I just feel like the number one thing that I always round back to when I talk to good old Conrad or my roommate here or other people that might be right-leaning thinking. I'm just like, so we shouldn't attempt to do better at all if there's any iota of waste or fraud. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Right.
Should we be fighting against waste or fraud? Of course we should. But what is your definition? Like, there's been a lot of Democratic presidents that like tried to fight against that and like tried to like, oh, dude, Obama like fucking tried to like, it's well known he tried to compromise Republicans for and got what was it called? Oh shit, what was it called? What was the term when spending went down on defense? Oh dang.
I'm not sure. Not sure if I remember that.
What a terrible political watcher come on, what is it?
Well, Obama's.
Anyways, the man tried to compromise with Republicans, tried to cut budgets. Also, defense got cut a little bit. And then even when you try to cut, sometimes even when you try to cut, people still lose their minds. They're like, oh, we told you to cut forever. And we told you that there's a huge debt. But oh my gosh, you cut military. Now we're upset about that too. It's like, all right.
Sequestration.
Got him. You Googled it and you're a wonderful blessing. Anyways.
I've never heard that word.
Sequestration. Yes. So.
Interesting.
You win and you lose in this business called politics. You're running a debt. Cut. Okay, let's cut defense. How dare you cut defense? I don't know what to say.
The problem is these politicians are beholden to something. It's just not entirely the people. Yeah. Right? Like if these politicians were genuinely entirely beholden to voters and voters alone, you wouldn't have all these issues. Mm-hmm. Right? As long as voters are aware of what's going on, as long as they're properly informed. But there are other systems of power in play here that completely pull politicians away from doing what's right by the people, because you have to play politics.
You have to play politics, yeah.
You have to play politics.
And I know we're super off topic, but I'm gonna keep going here.
Go for it.
That definitely unpopular opinion, probably. I super love when stuff like GM pulls those jobs in those factories. I super love when Trump talks tough about it. I love that. The way he talks is what I want out of that just that situation. There's a lot of times when he talks and he's a fucking jackass, but in that situation, his response, I'm upset. They better be making something else there. They better be bringing other jobs there. Yes. But it's just, in actuality, what he's actually doing is fucking not helping at all. Like, his tax cut is actually enhancing like the fact that they just made that decision.
Right.
They just told us that they're sitting on huge cash reserves. They're turning huge profits, and they're taking a lot of that and investing it in the future of the company, which I get, but it's just like, we can't act like the system we have is perfect and it serves jobs exactly the way it should, and then have this happen and be like, oh, but it's okay because we're investing in our future. So like, it's the future. Hey, the future, like future job, like
jobs.
But it's not working exactly the way it should. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I love when he talks that way. That's the way that pressure should be put. But a lot of the times it's just talk from politicians. So I don't know if you've seen a lot of, since AOC landed in DC, she is super outspoken on social media. She's been straight.
She has been,
putting people on the burner. And even a lot of the times,
Cortez.
not a lot of the times,
but just
even,
ASC.
yeah, but even sometimes I don't even agree. But I just love the fact that she's out there just like,
yeah, there's plenty of things I don't agree with her on, but I do really appreciate the way that she has a pipeline directly towards the people. That's what she's shooting for.
It's
that's a good
thing.
Fine,
that's a part of it. It's the fact that she's actually a working class person. It's such a breath of fresh air that it's like, no shit, not someone who sits there and says, I grew up poor. Like, no, this girl was a bartender like 2 years ago. Like, this girl was actually a member of the working class in a large, diversified city trying her best. And from that experience, you'll get a lot better leader than these privileged fuckers that grew up, quote unquote, poor and then became millionaires and then decided to use that money and run. I don't need these people. We got too many of these people. Okay, I need these people who are bartenders a couple years ago who see what happened in politics and get upset, and they're like, I'm pretty sure I can do better. Like, my ideas are pretty good. And boom. There you go. We need more of those people.
We do. And slowly millennials will take over Congress just by virtue of becoming an older crowd, and we'll see whether or not that's a good thing.
Yeah, but what happens when generations get older?
No, I understand that, but I would wager that millennials, regardless of politics, understand better the importance of that direct pipeline to the people, the utilization of social media, the direct conversations. We're much more socially connected and in a healthier way, I think. So regardless of politics, I just think by virtue of being that tech generation, we're going to be better politicians, at least in that regard. But
if you don't mind me ending with me getting mine and your thoughts on something from the actual article.
Sure.
From the Sinclair article. So at one point, the article reads, Epstein goes on to criticize some on the left, such as Democrat Congresswoman Maxine Waters, who were immediately up in arms about our president and his team standing up for our men and women in uniform and for our national security. Okay. I have so many issues with this whole paragraph. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
So
hang on. This man is going on local television, which we established earlier. This is something that's supposed to be objective, just news. Hey, this happened. This is what you should know. This is what it's supposed to be for. And right away, before we even get to that appalling second part of that statement, some on the left.
Yeah.
Why doesn't he just say, hey, Congresswoman Maxine Waters, it doesn't matter if she's left, Democrat, black, brown, woman, man, like just say, Congresswoman Maxine Waters, I have an issue with her saying this. That's how that should be said. 2, we're immediately up in arms about our president and his team standing up for our men and women. That is so...
Standing up for men and women in uniform.
This is the first thing. If I was interviewing Boris Epstein, I would say, what does that mean, standing up for our men and women? Does
Maxine
that mean
Waters doesn't do it?
Hang on. I would say to him, does that mean there's actual danger on the border? What do you think he would say?
Yeah,
He would say yes. He would say yes. There's a danger, and there's an invasion, and they're attacking our border. And then I would say, who is exactly a part of this army, and what weapons do they have? Okay, and most of this quote unquote army is women and children because it's 2/3 women and children. 1/3 of it's men. None of them have weapons. They're literally throwing rocks over a fence. Okay, is that an army?
And bottles, dude.
Oh my gosh. Okay, and so do these people need to be turned away, kept out because they're trying to illegally enter? Yes. Okay, obviously.
Right.
But it's just this whole like,
Yeah,
oh,
no.
they're not standing up for our men and women, for our national security. It's not about national security. We have border patrol. We have customs. These people protect our border every day. They've been doing it for years before you started fear mongering. Okay, and they were doing a fine job. All right, so I don't.
Yeah, no, I mean, when I said begging the question, that was exactly the line that I was referring to. And when you sent this article and I watched the Sinclair media group video by Boris Epstein, this wonderful, upstanding gentleman, that was the one line that jumped out at me. Because I was cringing so hard when he said, some on the left, such as Democrat Congresswoman Maxine Waters, were immediately up in arms about our president and his team standing up for our men and women in uniform. What? That's not even what we're talking about here.
Because
That's
it's such a naked political play.
It absolutely is.
Right.
Oh, we're attacking the military. No, it's not even our military. Well, I guess it's technically our military on the border, but it's border patrol. We're not even talking about. Like it's absolutely begging the question. It's such a straw man that you're attacking.
I know,
it's so frustrating because if you talk to Maxine Waters or if you talk to some on the left, these are people who support our military for the most part, right? Like I don't understand. That wasn't even the question. But I did want to ask you one thing about this. How did you feel about the use of tear gas? Because I thought it was justified. Regardless,
is there not a fence there? And if there is, were they getting over? Because I guess I just don't know enough.
They had scaled a tertiary fence, and then they were scaling the border fence, and that's when tear gas was released, and it dispersed the crowd and it pushed them back. So they had scaled a fence.
I guess I would be the kind of person that would say. I guess I would just be the kind of person that would say I'm thankful that we live in times where we have tear gas. Is my first. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a non-lethal option, obviously.
Yeah. I understand that nobody wants to be tear gassed, right? And we should be careful with using any sort of force, even if it's just super painful eyeballs for a while on any other human being. But this is like at the border, a caravan that we knew was coming. I feel neutral towards that statement.
We knew they were coming. We didn't know.
It sounds like they used a force that isn't gonna lethally kill anyone. And I woke up this morning and I was fine, so I'm neutral towards that statement.
Sure, you can say that about a lot of things.
You could,
but my point was much like this begging the question bullshit that this Boris Epstein guy was saying. The people on the left not standing up for our men and women in uniform. I also took issue. If I could just finish, I also took issue with people on the left saying, "Look at them tear gassing women and children and migrants." It's like these same emotional strings that you're tugging at to get people to side with you.
I agree.
But it's not the conversation we should be having.
I agree. But this is what I want you to consider.
Okay.
I don't even want a response. I just want you to consider.
Okay.
You're not wrong when you said what you said, but this Boris guy actually has an audience that he can reach because of this. The people you're talking about on the left that are fringe, they don't have this same audience.
Not so fringe, but fair enough. I get what you're saying. I'm not defending Sinclair at all.
Do we have some activists? We don't like people getting tear gas segments on TV like this.
No, but you have people like Ocasio-Cortez who were spouting that same line, tear gassing women and children.
And by the way, this Boris guy gets to reach more people than Ocasio-Cortez does.
I agree. I am not trying to give you the impression. I'm not defending either of these sentiments.
And I'm not defending either of them either. I'm just, there are bigger, like, you can prioritize them. Like, I'm more worried about this guy.
I agree.
Because they're both extremist views. I just worry about the platform that one now has.
Right.
So, yeah.
No, I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
The Sinclair problem is more
And
problematic. 100%.
I've been on campus 3 years now since I've been back from serving, and there's a few things I generally disagree with people on the left on, but one of them I always just have a problem with people on the left. Not all the time, but like it's pretty constant. It's like there's not enough, and it's not just on the left, but it's everybody. There's not enough like, hey, be thankful for the time that you live in and the shoulders that you stand on. People just are not. Okay. When we talk about even 5,000, and let's call it what it is, 5,000 disadvantaged, asylum seeking, poor people from Central America, whether we take them in or not, it's what it is. These people are not rich. They're disadvantaged, poor people. Okay, if we look back in history, these people could easily have been slaves or murdered. Okay, they're getting tear gassed. Okay, we live in a society and we've built up such a production level from capitalism where even the least of us, and I'm only speaking for this country now, not everybody else, because I know what they're coming from. It's a lot tougher than living here.
Yeah,
but even the most disadvantaged people in America, it's just you live to a certain degree that's not as bad as everyone. If you live as bad as a third world country in this country, is because you choose to. It's because maybe you have mental issues or whatever. You choose to whatever. I don't know. But it doesn't have to be that way for someone in this country. And that's, by the way, what I love about this country. But still, it's one big area that I break. I don't feel enough thankfulness for. We can always complain and always strive to make things better, and we should. I don't even have a problem with complaining. I just want a plan. If you would complain about something, then you better have a fucking plan how to fix it. But it's just the not being thankful. And it's the little things about this story and the tear gas. It's like they got tear gassed. They could have been shot the fuck up. This could be like 1840s Native America time. All right. And it's not. It's not. So
you don't have to go that far back. You could say 1920s, to be honest.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, I don't care. I'm not here to argue that human beings suck. They've always sucked.
Right. Sure. We still suck.
Yeah, we still suck for sure.
Trying.
And we're still trying to do better. Yo,
we're trying.
Someone who has the ideology I have, okay, wants to help these people at the border, of course, wants to help everybody who we can. But here's the debate. The can is where the debate is wild. Okay, we can't help everybody. We're gonna get someday, I hope, with technology and just human compassion and evolving to being better, just beings and life forms. We're gonna get to a point where we can do a lot for every single person. We're not there yet, and we've got to prioritize still, and we've got to figure out what buttons to press that might create more change than necessarily other buttons, right? If we hit the button of pay reparations to all people who were enslaved that never got them and we should pay them, that's not going to fix a lot. If you hit that button, okay, it's going to make some people feel good, maybe for a little bit of time, but you're going to fix nothing. You're going to only make some people feel good, and you're not going to fix the symptoms of the problem. So we got to, hang on, I tweeted something today.
I was gonna say, are you saying that we're rounding out another podcast saying we can do better? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, we always do. I tweeted. So I saw this article today from CBS News. CDC says life expectancy down.
Yeah, I saw this.
Not because healthcare isn't advancing. It's because more people are taking their own lives earlier. Yeah. Whether voluntarily or involuntarily through drugs or just struggle with life and suicide. Okay. And I go,
suicide and unintentional.
This is what I tweeted. Suicide and drug overdoses, for real. Both of these are man-made problems. We need to get a grip on reality and start supporting common sense outside the box reforms to fix these problems. And I hashtagged war on drugs failed and Medicare for all. Okay. Because when we talk about fucking prescription drugs, you need to legalize cannabis. It is a non-lethal way to control pain. Come on. We're done with this. Okay. And two, I hashtag Medicare for all, because if we want to get serious, a lot of people on the right, If they want to get serious, they want to get serious about helping people who are getting murdered by a lot of people. They're saying, "Oh, it's a mental issue, mental issue." Okay, Medicaid pays for more medical health in this country because most people who have mental issues are poor and disadvantaged than any other service. So get real and let's have Medicare for all to make sure that anybody who's struggling can help themselves.
Well, it's interesting because having mental health issues
step up to the plate. Go ahead.
Might sort of be an inclination to be poor or disadvantaged because now you can't be a functioning member of society.
That's what I'm saying. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
How many times have we been told, oh, a lot of these, I don't know if it's true. This is what I've just heard. And dad's told us this. Other people have told me this over the years. A lot of people that are homeless just choose to be because they have mental problems. Okay, then why are they just living on the street? What the fuck? Like, we admit that a lot of these people can't control it and they just choose to be there because they have mental issues. And at the same time, we don't like that they're there because a lot of cities are like, oh, they ruin it and people don't want to move here because of the homeless people and they try to get rid of them. And it's like, dude, just create mental facilities again and stick these people there. It's like, you know, maybe they weren't the best solution, but is this better? Is this better? Just having people wander the streets. They don't have health care. They're all fucked up in the head. They choose not to participate, right? And the only other option when we don't want them to be there because younger people are moving back to the cities and we need to beautify them to squeeze every dime we can is to kick them out of the city. Just throw them out wherever. Like, it's the same fucking solutions to the problem, the same problems, and it's insanity. It's the definition of insanity.
Yeah.
It's just, come on, yo. Oh, how come all these kids are dying by opioids? Do you want me to tell you the truth? Or are you going to listen to me this time? No? Then what the fuck are we doing here? Anyways. That's why
there you go.
Some of these Ojeda videos that I've shared, and I'm sure you've seen, when he's just like going hard in the paint against opioids and how like cannabis can do a lot of good. I'm like, yeah, go get him. Go get him, boy. It's just so much. It's sad to me that all you need to do as a politician is to just have some common sense about your policy and you fire me up. Come on. That's so sad. We should be having nuanced debates inside of common sense policies, not fucking having debates about stupid ass anti-vaccine policies for no goddamn reason.
Oh God.
All right, that's where I'll leave it.
Congratulations, Michigan, by the way, legalizing cannabis.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Job well done. Step closer to common sense policy.